Hi, I'm Kill Sims. I'm going to do a reaction video to an interview with Sweet Anita, but I'm going to react and respond in relation to how I deal with my own illness, which is narcolepsy. And Sweet Anita has Tourette's. It's a neural developmental disorder that begins in childhood or adolescence. It's characterized by multiple movement or motor tics and at least one vocal or phonic tic. I have type 1 narcolepsy. I have all of the symptoms, all of the fun. Yay. And type 2 means that they don't have cataplexy, which is sudden loss of voluntary muscle control. It's like basically paralysis, temporary paralysis. But it can be mild or it can be a complete collapse of the body, but you are still fully conscious throughout. So narcolepsy is a neurological disorder that is characterized by sleep disorders. So everything is back to front and upside down. The REM sleep-wake regulating system is broken. People with narcolepsy fall asleep quickly and go straight into REM sleep or much faster into REM sleep than a person without narcolepsy would. People think that we sleep well at night, which is a misconception. We don't sleep well at night. We wake up many times during the night. I don't get very much sleep, and when I do sleep, it's not proper sleep because I go straight into REM sleep, which is basically dreaming. And then there's, what else is there? There's hypnagogic hallucinations, which is a fun time. Brain fog. Automatic behavior, which is where you're so fucking tired that your body carries on doing things as normal, but you're just not quite there. You're asleep like a zombie. Maybe you end up putting things in your shopping basket that you didn't really want, or you end up like walking to the wrong place. Or I once walked into the bottom of a mountain, but that's another story for another time. So it's caused by a lack of hypocretin in the brain. So the main symptom that everybody knows about is excessive daytime sleepiness. I don't just fall asleep randomly. I am always tired, and I have to take bin loads of medication.
Let's do all the drugs.
In order to barely function. I've had it since I was 7. I was diagnosed when I was 12. My blood has street value.
Not for sale.
I'm on enough drugs to get a whole village high for a month. There's 4 main symptoms of narcolepsy rather, and they are referred to as the narcolepsy tetrad. Which are, as I already mentioned, excessive daytime sleepiness, sleep paralysis, hallucinations, and cataplexy. Everybody with narcolepsy experiences excessive daytime sleepiness, with the other symptoms less common. Only 10 to 15% of people with narcolepsy experience the entire tetrad of symptoms. Lucky me! And even less get it before the age of onset. So I won the lottery twice. Okay, anyway, let's get to the video.
I thought it would never end.
Because I'm just ranting. You didn't come here for a lesson in narcolepsy, and I'm sure you're now falling asleep.
Yawn.
So let's get to the video. I'm going to talk about my experience with narcolepsy in response to her experiences with Tourette's.
Okay, so obviously, Anita, we've met before, but for any new viewers or listeners, would you mind describing who you are?
I'm Sweet Anita. I make content creator. Let's go with content creator. Yes, on YouTube and Twitch primarily, mainly live stream content. And I aim to accidentally teach people stuff by passively making them laugh. I think that's my approach.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you before we sort of get into the story of your career is I've never interviewed someone with Tourette's before. And I don't really know what the etiquette is for tics. Is it polite to just ignore them or to reference them, or, you know, what is the, educate me a bit on that.
It depends on the person.
Sure.
So, like, there is no etiquette for Tourette's. There's only etiquette for the person because everyone's condition affects them differently. Like, you might meet someone and not even know they have Tourette's because they only have 1 or 2 mild tics that are very quiet. And then you might meet someone who has, like, constant explosive episodes of tics. And, you know, people have different tolerances of, like, what they can handle. And I know some people with Tourette's who are really, really sensitive to laughter and just don't like to be laughed at because they're, tics can be painful and it can be really challenging to navigate them. And I really don't care. For me personally, like I grew up being punished for my tics, so everyone just thought I was misbehaving. So if I know that people find it funny or that they don't care, then I know that they're not mad at me. So if anything, laughter's reassuring compared to how people used to react to me. And so I don't mind if people laugh. I don't mind if people want to ignore it. I don't mind if people want to joke about it. Like I have friends, I have a tic where I'll go fingers in ya. And most people are just like kind of taken aback. But my friends will go, yeah, sure. And I'll go 10 and I'll start haggling. And they know that if they agree with it and go, yeah, maybe a bit more, like I'll keep on ticking. So, and people walking by give us looks every time and they don't care. So I have interactions like that with my friends because they kind of know the boundary. And, I kind of feel like for me, I'm not fussed how people react so long as they're comfortable and know that I don't mean it and that I'm not really going to try and fist them.
That's fucking hilarious. Okay, so what I was going to say, she's completely lost me now. Yeah, there's no etiquette for me either, for my illness. People often wonder what to do. I don't often have cataplexy in public these days, but it's not that it doesn't happen. But I don't really need anyone to do anything unless I fall over and bang my head. I don't tend to bother even telling people because it doesn't happen that often in public for me to do that. I certainly don't want people to act differently. And if I want to take a nap, I'll just tell people I'm going to take a nap. So yeah, there's no etiquette, I don't think. It's just the same as anyone else, I guess. Moving on.
Great. And did you mean it when you said Andy had a nice ass?
Absolutely.
Great. And was the Tourette's present from birth, or did it suddenly ramp up and start to become more visible at some point?
This really interests me because obviously I can't know for sure. Most of us don't remember birth. And
Sure.
you don't know any words when you're a baby. So like it's not going to be easy to know the difference between a twitch and just a baby wiggling. It's not like I shot out of the womb and was just like, fuck off to like everyone in the delivery room. So how can you really tell? A lot of people say that they suddenly had like a tic that came on somewhere around 8, 9, 10. That's quite a common age for Tourette's to start. Although it can start in adulthood. It can start because of medication. It can start because of trauma or head injuries. And the thing with this is my mom said my first word was Michael Schumacher.
Wow, okay.
And she that really confused my mom and dad because they were hoping for mom or dad. They were competing over that. And once I said it once, I would not stop. And then for many years after I developed a vocabulary, I was still saying it out of the
Michael
blue.
Schumacher.
Yes. And that, when I talked about this, I brought my mom on my stream and asked her about this. And all of the Formula One fans love me now. But the thing with that is I don't know if my first word was a tic, or if I had Tourette's since birth, or that I had a later onset and that was just like my first word. I don't know for sure, but it seems like my first word was a tic. And yeah.
I mean, it's an impressive first word.
Yes, exactly.
My daughter's was like cat or something. And Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, I wonder if I was particularly just a quiet and observant child, other than the tics, and perhaps I had the capacity to speak before or understand words before I spoke, because I was quite quiet and non-talkative for a lot of my childhood. I recently looked at my medical records, and as far back as you go, intermittently it says neglect, bad parenting, quiet, kind of flat, emotionally flat. Like I'm very different to how I was in my childhood and teens. So I wonder if the reason why I had such a complex first word was because I knew like words and things. I just wasn't trying to communicate.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Right. I'm just going to respond to that. In reference to the age of onset. Normally, people with narcolepsy develop it in their late teens to early adulthood. I'm one of those lucky people that got it when I was 7. So, and it was very obvious. I had all the symptoms. Once again, I want to point out that I'm not comparing Tourette's and narcolepsy. I'm merely responding with my own experiences in life, They're completely different illnesses. Okay, moving on.
And when you're saying that your childhood was never stable, so to speak, did you ever start going to school consistently, or were you kind of in and out of school?
In and out. So I would try for like maybe a year tops and then drop for a long period of time. I was mostly home educated, and weirdly, I was teaching myself. My mom would just go, "Here's all my university books," and pushing about 10-year-old and just being like, "Good luck, teach me something later." And then she'd give me like books with lines in to write, and just her like geology books and science books and things like that. And I'd go through them, I'd read them, I'd write notes down, I'd research them. And, you know, my mum had loads and loads of books at that point because she was studying. So, and then at the end of the day, she'd be like, "What did you find out?" And I'd go, "Well," and I'm like, even though that seems really lazy, it was great because I was learning how to teach myself, take an interest and take notes. I was tailoring my learning to a way that I can retain it personally, which works so much better than school because I have ADHD. Most people with Tourette's have lots of other diagnoses.
Right.
I'm just going to pause it there again. I actually forgot to mention before as well, Anita mentioned how it happens. So with narcolepsy, there is a narcolepsy gene, but it's not always in every case, as far as I know. It's believed to be in response to an autoimmune attack. So the immune system attacks the brain and destroys the neurons that keep you awake and stop you from getting eaten by dinosaurs. A few years ago, well, quite a long time ago now, there was a vaccine for, I think it was swine flu, and it actually caused narcolepsy in a bunch of people, unfortunately. They removed it from the public immediately, but unfortunately, I believe those people were left with brain damage. I'm not an anti-vaccine person, by the way, so oh god, I'm not going to go down that fucking road anyway. Moving on. So yeah, it can be caused. It can be hereditary. It can be caused by an environmental something environmental, which oh my god, I'm so fucking tired. It's unreal. I'm never going to get through this, and I'm never going to get it. It's going to not get done. Okay, just carry on. I'm trying not to, like, edit it much because I know that I'll want to delete all of this and not actually upload it, and that's why I have no content. So let's just fucking carry on and just hope for the best. All right. Okay, where were we? So Anita was talking about her schooling as a child. She mentioned how it was difficult for her to attend school in childhood, but it got better later on in life. For me, it was the exact opposite. I was a genius. No, I wasn't a genius. I was good in school when I was a child, and then it just became a fucking living hell. But I was forced to kind of stick with it until everyone finally agreed with me that I wasn't built for a formal education system, and I dropped out multiple times, but that's another story. So yeah, we've had it's like the exact opposite in terms of the timeline, but we both turned out all right, it seems. At least I suppose that's a matter of opinion, isn't it?
So I was doing ADHD friendly learning without realizing, and when you re-explain something to someone, you change the way that your brain has stored the information.
Oh.
So it's easier to remember and learn things if you then pass on that knowledge and teach someone else. Unconsciously, she was teaching me in the best possible way, and I became very advanced in these particular topics. I have when I go to schools, I have stacks and stacks of awards for maths, science, English, all these sorts of things. I did instantly well, even though I wasn't following the curriculum at all for most of the time.
So you were kind of naturally academic, though, in that sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of lucky that I didn't go into the sciences because I wanted to, when I was 10, I wanted to get men pregnant and bioengineer a mind-controlling parasite that would make people more peaceful. So I probably am glad that I dropped out. Yes,
I'm also glad you didn't go into sciences. Who knows what would have happened. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, good ambitions, though. So what were you like as a child at that point? Like, did you have a friendship group or a couple of close friends or any friends?
No. I liked animals. Animals don't care if you call them a slut. So I was always taking in animals.
You were talking in the description there of kind of how you dealt with, in your younger life, how you dealt with the tics. You mentioned college and university. So you'd sort of managed to stay in education. Is that right? You'd sort of gone to high school, then to college, and then to university?
I kind of skipped high school.
Right.
I think I went to a a few months here and there across a few middle schools and primary schools. Nothing really much to speak of. A year at a high school-ish thing. And then after that, I think like 3 or 4 years of isolation. And then suddenly college. And that was a lot because I was agoraphobic and I was just like, fuck it. I don't want to live just staring at the same four walls. I'm going to try. And I was just like having panic attacks and coming home.
I can relate to that. I too had, I still don't leave the house that much. And years ago, I'd have panic attacks and stuff, especially when I did attempt to go to school. And I couldn't cope in school at all. I eventually just dropped out. I just played truant a lot, went into town instead and played my guitar, went busking and just fell asleep in cafes and things. Or sometimes I was in school, I just used to find a piano room, play the piano and fall asleep. But like they had these little music rooms for people to practice individually, so I'd just find one of those and go and hide in there. But they never believed me. They always thought I was like skiving off with a group of people, and I usually wasn't. I was usually alone until I met a partner in crime, and that's another story. Eventually I dropped out. I never made it to the 5th year. And then I did also go to college and did arts and stuff. I just turned up with my art, and they said I could start like next week. And then I dropped out of college about 6 times.
Crying, just like, after like being there for like 5 minutes, and I just kept going and being like, I lasted 10 minutes today. I lasted like an hour. And I just like kind of forced my way back into the world. And it was horrible because like I chose games design, which was a mistake because games design is full of horny, maladapted boys, and it didn't change. Like games designers like had so many scandals. Those boys grew up that I was studying with, and they're just still just as messed up. And then so I left that and went into animation, which was 40 boys and me, but they were nice boys.
Right.
So gained all the same skills, just with fewer dicks to bat away. And that was great. I mean, I got in by virtue of just going, I have this folder full of drawings. Will you take me? Because
that's literally what I did. The same thing. I turned up with my artwork and they let me in. Yeah. But I ended up doing my boyfriend's art coursework, and his got shown in an exhibition, but mine didn't. Even though I painted it, really, he got the credit for it. Never mind.
I've heard there's this thing called a student loan, and I'm hungry. That was just kind of like the mentality. I would have gone into science. I was really passionate about science, but I didn't have any GCSEs or A-levels or anything to show that I had any capacity.
Oh, wow. So instead of those, you were accepted on the course by your folder of
drawings.
Pictures, drawings, wow.
Exactly the same.
And they were like, normally we wouldn't do this, but unfortunately, on my course, a lot of the people who wanted to be animators didn't have very many drawing skills and things. And he was like, in order to get the funding for this course, I need to be able to show off like what's happening in this course because it's relatively new. So having people with drawing skills will really help me to sell the course. So if you take your A-levels alongside the course, we'll arrange all of that for you. Just make sure you pass them. And then I got my student loans, and that was how I managed to get food and stuff because I just couldn't get employed. Like I would try to get jobs, but like I throw things if I hold them for too long as a tick, and you know I'm constantly insulting people and stuff. There's just no way you could. Like if I tried to stack shelves, someone's going to get knocked out with it.
Right.
So
and I suppose at that.
I mean, I've not ever been successful in employment either. But yeah, stacking shelves wouldn't end well for me either. Nothing does really. I mean, I used to fall asleep on the phones working in an office. I used to fall asleep when I worked on a bar. I mean, I would look like I was awake and I was still trying to pour drinks and stuff, but I would just switch off, and then I would suddenly have a complete blackout and not remember what I was doing. So I'd have a £5 note in one hand and a pint of beer in the other, and I didn't know who the pint was for, or whether someone had just given me the fiver, or whether it was the change I was supposed to give somebody back. And they were very brief, sort of micro sleeps, but I would have them a lot. And it was frustrating, you know, I struggled to function like that. And obviously I can't work on machinery and or drive. And if I'm expected to catch a bus to get to work, I'm not likely to be on time because I almost always fall asleep on buses, trains. Aeroplanes don't matter so much because they're gonna end up at the wrong stop, hopefully.
Point in your life as well, you don't have a diagnosis to be able to say, I've got this, by the way, in case this happens. So you were aware that if you went and started stacking shelves, you'd end up throwing whatever you were holding.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 or 4 years that you said they were in isolation, they were directly after school, is that right?
Yeah, I had a bad incident at the last school and was like, fuck it. There's no point trying to get an education if you're not going to survive the education part.
Do you want me asking what the incident was, or is it private?
Yeah, it's fine. I used to get myself in trouble a lot with other students. There were kids who would just try to start rumors and things like this, and they'd say, "I heard you take drugs," and I'd be like, "Yeah,
oh my
drugs."
God, that
and
happened,
they'd be like, "See, she's
happened to me as well.
admitting it because like
apparently I was on heroin in like the 3rd year, and even the teacher pulled me aside and asked me about it once. I was like, fucking, would I even be in school? I mean, what the crazy. And again, I used to just go along with it for fun. I'll tell you a secret. I did take a lot of LSD back then, but that's not what they've said I was on. So there you go.
the tick would say the most inappropriate thing at the time or the thing that would get me the most in trouble at the time. And unfortunately, that meant that, I used to get in accidental conflicts a lot. And I had other trouble as well. I used to beat up a lot of boys because I was an early bloomer, which was another problem.
Same.
Not only did I have like a condition which makes me shout random words at people, I also had massive tits. I was like a double D at 10. I'm not even exaggerating.
Okay.
So this is a
that big.
problem at school. And so I had a 3 warning system. The first is a don't touch me. And if they kept on doing it, I'd be like, I'm going to have to hurt you. And if they kept on doing it, I was like, okay, what is about to happen is your fault. And like, I broke one kid's arm, another kid's arm and a leg. I got up on a table and kicked another kid in the face and these sorts of things.
I mean, these all sound reasonable.
Yeah.
After 3 warnings.
Yeah, three warning system. And because I read a lot of philosophy books and had a strong sense of ethics.
I love her. No, I didn't attack boys, but yeah, if they messed with me, I was quite willing to fight. I had an older brother, so I was brought up like a little... He brought me up as his little brother, wrestling and playing football. So I did ballet as well, but I also wrestled and played football. And I was good at football. And I was the only girl in the boys' football team in my primary school. Because there's no point in me playing freaking netball. I'm 5 foot tall. It would be like Piggy in the middle.
But just going back to, I suppose, the linear nature of your life. So you were now at... You're now at university. You've managed to find a course which you like. The games design. The games design was a bad one. The animation one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how was that going?
Well, I didn't do any animating after I left. I actually was in an abusive relationship towards the end of my university studies. So I was studying for a higher degree, but didn't finish that. I got my degree, but not my higher degree. Ended up having to uproot my life and move in order to escape him. He'd already tried to kill me once. He'd killed my cat, and he'd...
Wow, this a lot.
No. If you kill my cat, you die slowly.
What's just happened in the last 20 seconds? So you were... Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Obviously, it's not funny. It's just kind of like...
I was in a relationship with somebody who had antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. I moved 7,000 miles across the planet in order to get away from him. And it wasn't far enough.
Yeah, I was with him for a very long time, but he suddenly flipped. Like, he was such a gentle person, and he was kind of nerdy and quiet, and he was the kind of person who'd dunk his coat in the
always
river
the quiet ones.
Fish a bug out. He was the kind of person who was very, like, no one would think he would hurt a fly. And I think I got a sense of security from that because after everything I went through in my childhood, I was really looking for someone gentle.
Yeah.
And after a few years, he just flipped. And he went from somebody who was very safe to someone who was very dangerous. it all happened around the time that my mom... So we moved into a place, our landlord died, and the ownership of the house was like being debated by his children. And we were going to have to look for a new place. And we'd taken on loads of rescue animals that we couldn't take with us because nowhere would let us bring pets. So we were kind of stuck. And I was like, I don't want to end up on the streets again. My mom's really vulnerable, and these animals are just going to have to go to a shelter, and all the local shelters are kill shelters.
Oh, no.
So my ex was like, because I just recently broke up with him, and he was like...
Is he exhibiting dangerous behaviours at the moment after you broke up with him, or not yet?
Not yet, no. Like, we just fell out, and I was just not interested. And then he came back and he was like, I know what's happening to you. I've got an inheritance. I can buy the house. I can save you. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I need a place to live. If I can live downstairs, then, you know, I can get all this worked out. I just want to help you. And I was like, okay. And he lived in the flat underneath us. It was a house broken up into two. Because my mom was so grateful, she was like, you know, the door's always open if you want a cup of tea, if you want to hang out, all this sort of stuff. And so he'd come up into our flat, and he would, you know, just hang out, and he just got more and more aggressive, more and more disrespectful, and he just began to pressure me, and he was horrible. And he was like, what are you going to do about it? Your life's ruined, like you're homeless without me, sort of thing. And
Oh my God.
thing is, I can't tell because his family had like sudden onset mental health problems. Like a lot of his family were like fine and normal, and then one day a switch flicked and they'd have a mental breakdown and they'd have to be institutionalized. It seemed to run in the family. And I don't know whether it was that or that he's like a lot of domestic abusers, where they slowly build into the violence after taking away your support network, after making sure that you're financially reliant, after making sure that, you know, nobody believes you, after making you look crazy to your friends, these sorts of things. Because a lot of people don't know this about domestic violence, but it's not that people just love being abused. That's a stereotype about women. Or they like a bad boy.
Fucking
They
hell.
always skim over the nice guys and go for someone who treats them like shit. And it's not true. It's that all the people that do these terrible things lie. So every person looks like a decent person until they get the opportunity to hurt you and get away with it. And so a lot of them build into it. They start picking fights with your family. So you've got no support network.
Well, I guess in my case, I was told that this person was attending counselling, getting help, and I cared about them as my friend as well. So, you know, it's one of those situations where you know that they're going through something, because that's obvious. But in the end, I realised that I was definitely putting my life in danger. I don't think he ever intentionally tried to off me per se, but I think it was the manner in which it happened, in which he the way he would be physical with me was very dangerous. It doesn't take much from a head injury to cause a fatality. I don't know, he's dead to me now anyway. Moving on.
They start isolating you from your friends. They start controlling your food and making you hungry and tired, arguing with you long into the night until you just lost all sense of time and space. And so you're confused and tired and weak, and it's then that they'll hit you, and then they'll say that you imagined it or that you deserved it. Or gaslighting.
Yeah.
And so they build into the violence, and people don't see that. They just see their friend who, you know, just get with this douchebag, and you can see it from the outside really easily, and you just don't see how they make it invisible from the inside at all.
Funny, because a few of my friends did use the word sociopath, and this is before it became a freaking buzzword. I'm not even joking. When I say sociopath, I'm not exaggerating at all. I just always thought it seemed a little extreme, but this was before all the bad things started to happen. It took me a while to accept that I'd actually met a freaking, like, sociopath. Like, I was dating a real, that I'd fallen for somebody with those tendencies. It's obviously not black and white. Sometimes he was really cool. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about relationships, so let's move on.
And he killed your cat as well.
Oh no, I fucking batty.
I still don't know. I just know that he used to come in for a specific window. We'd always leave it open for the cat. Then one day he stopped coming home.
No.
And this exact same day, he started closing the window, and I'd open it again. So he already knew the cat wasn't coming back.
God.
And then one day I went down after he, like, I moved out in a hurry. I used a domestic violence organization to get away.
Right.
And in that situation, I had to quickly go down and remove a couple of pieces of furniture he'd taken from me. And I pulled the furniture back, and there was just fur and blood all up the wall. And it was all his ginger fur. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God.
So, and the thing is, like, the police are just useless. I tried with the police. There's just,
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Wow. Okay.
Oh my
and how old are you
God.
at this point?
I was in my early 20s.
Early 20s. Okay.
But yeah, I moved on from that, got a new partner who wasn't that great. He wasn't abusive, but he was not great. He stole $8,000 from me, cheated on me.
Definitely not great, I would say is
Jesus
accurate.
Christ.
Yeah, and so that was not great either. But I ended up starting a business and selling things online and became like self-sufficient. And then I started playing Overwatch. My ex-boyfriend, the bad one.
Overwatch is a bit too cartoony for me, so I've not. It's not something I want to play. I'm more Red Dead and Fallout 4, Fallout 76. Haven't played New Vegas. I can't remember what else I play now. I've got brain fog. I spend an awful lot of time in Red Dead, as you can tell by the other videos on this channel. Okay, I'm going to stop babbling now.
He got me into Overwatch, and I kept the Overwatch and dumped the boyfriend. I was like, this is fun, but you're not. And I was on Overwatch that I found Twitch because a streamer found me. So I was doing Twitch as a mild hobby, and it wasn't even, I didn't even know people could make a living off it. I was literally just streaming my games so people could see when there was an opening and join me. And then that was all it was for. It was just a social thing for me.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something about gaming. Can't remember now. Oh yeah, brain fog. I play Red Dead Online with a group called the Dead Rabbits. Recently, we were playing online, and I had a bit of a wobble. Meaning I had a cataleptic attack. So basically I was sat here, somebody made me laugh, and it caused me to have an attack. So I was in my chair, I couldn't move, and we were actually in the middle of a sale. Like we were delivering, we were riding on the horses on the way to do a sale in the game, and suddenly I stopped in the field and everybody else carried on, and it's fine. They didn't assume that anything was wrong. They probably thought I just had to go away from my keyboard for a moment. When I was able to move and speak again, I was still in the game. I hadn't been kicked for some reason. Maybe I managed to move my mouse or something, I don't know, because normally if you don't do anything for too long you get kicked out. They had gone on to do another sale, and it was the same route. And they had seen me stood there still in the same place, but one of them accidentally ran into me and knocked my character flying off my horse. I didn't even know that had happened. I just decided to explain to them that I'd had an attack, and they were like, oh, we knocked you off the horse. I just thought it was really funny. You might find me in the game sort of standing in the middle of a field doing nothing, and my horse will look really hungry. And my character starts to look tired. Anyway.
So, you'd started playing Overwatch with your ex-boyfriend. Had you been into gaming before that, or was that the first time you'd sort of experienced it?
It was my first time online gaming. I loved The Last of Us and console games. And whenever I was younger, I loved console games because it was a way to pass time without having to socialize. You know, you can swear at computer games and people just think you're angry, at the game. So it was an easy way to enjoy myself without too much threat. And I could focus as well. So a lot of the time I wouldn't even tick.
Whereas I just used to fall asleep playing whatever game I was playing, or I'd collapse on my keyboard. Years and years ago when I had freaking, what was it, Commodore 64, in the middle of Paperboy, I would collapse onto my keyboard and crash the entire system. Not so much these days. My cataplexy is under control for the most part, so I don't have to worry about my PC being destroyed when I land on it. But yeah, I do fall asleep whilst I'm gaming. If I'm making a video, I am generally very well medicated. Even though I'm still extremely tired right now, I have taken like a double dose of medication and drank about 3 coffees. It's just, I'm still tired.
So I loved games growing up. I used to play the Super Nintendo and the PS1, and then my mom's, we were really strapped for money when I was growing up, but once she like did that thing where you can pay in increments over like the course of a couple of years, and she got me like a PS2, and that was a great sense of escapism for me, especially when I was very isolated. So yeah, I loved gaming, but I'd never really played with other people. So
And were you good at it?
I'd like to think so, but I guess that's subjective.
Sure, but I mean, as somebody that hadn't spent a lot of time socialising with people, I got Overwatch, and a group of me and this years ago when it came out, a group of me and a group of workmates all played it, and I was rubbish at it, and so online just got a ton of abuse for how bad I was at it. So I guess you sort of...
I don't give a shit what you think of my gaming. I'm not playing it for you, and I'm not a competitive gamer, so I just do it for fun. Leave me alone.
Someone that isn't used to talking in groups and you go into playing on the online community, you must have to be quite good, otherwise people are just going to slam you for being too rubbish to play with them.
Honestly, I don't remember because I got accused of being a soundboard too often.
Sure, okay.
So I was pretty drunk a lot of my Overwatch days.
Because you were playing that drinking game.
Yeah, so I have no idea whether we were good. But I know that I got into competitive gaming since. So I do like first-person shooters. I've been in a lot of Apex tournaments and
Not my thing.
prize money from those, and like actually done all right. So I'd like to think that I'm okay at it.
Yeah, well, you're being very humble if you're winning prize money. I'm sure you must be really good at it.
But I didn't know that people could make it big. I didn't do any research. I didn't look up any streamers. I literally found out about it because I was playing Overwatch. A guy came over into my game, and I just got chatting with him, and we were just talking, and his viewers thought I was either a soundboard, a voice actor, or a streamer. They're like, she's got to be one of these 3 things. So they were Googling me, and they couldn't find me because I wasn't any of those things. And basically, he said, I've got a confession, I'm streaming. I was like, that's all right. I don't even know what that is. And he gave me a link. I saw his chat, and I was like, well, if I'm passively doing what it takes to be one of these 3 things, why don't I give it a go? So I made an account, and yeah, I just used it to hang out with my friends. So immediately as soon as I started, I had like 20 average viewers, which is 20 at any given time, and over 100 like viewers that in total that had come to the stream. So I was like, this is doing really well. Usually people have to work really hard for this. So I kept on doing that. Then people paid a lot of attention to my condition because all of these friends had no idea I had Tourette's. They're not hearing the tics. And suddenly on the live stream, there's no push to talk on the live stream.
Yeah.
So they're hearing all the extras. And they're like, what is happening? And I started having to explain Tourette syndrome. And at this point, actually, it was just after I finally got my diagnosis.
Ah, okay. At what age was this, sorry?
About 27.
So quite late.
Yeah.
I think I'm really lucky. Well, not lucky to have got it when I was a kid. I was diagnosed when I was 12. It screwed up my life completely, reshaped everything about my life. It still does in many ways. I've tried to just do what I can under the circumstances, and I try not to let it stop me from doing things, but obviously I can't do certain things like drive a car, work as an air traffic controller. There's loads of things that I probably shouldn't do. And loads of things that I probably shouldn't do, but do anyway, usually involving large bodies of water. God, I'm so tired. I'm rambling. Crap. Okay. What was I on about anyway? No, I can't remember what I was just saying. I can't remember at all.
Because what happened was I got some tests in my early 20s, then had to leave town and because of everything that happened with my ex. And then They were supposed to message me and tell me the results, but they never did, and I never chased it up because my life was just thrown into turmoil. So I got in contact with them and was like, hey, we were investigating whether I had Tourette syndrome. Could we look into that again? Because I never got any answers, and I can't get a job. It's really getting in the way of my life. I need help. And they were like, oh, we diagnosed you like nearly 10 years ago. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, I looked through your records. You have Tourette syndrome. We've known for quite a while. I was like,
Oh my God.
if you'd have told me back then,
Yeah, helpful.
this would have been life changing.
So you were diagnosed at 17, but you only found out at 27, is that
Well,
right?
it said like nearly 10 years ago.
Right.
It was like sometime in my early 20s. Like it was either 20, 21, 23, somewhere around there. And so I finally had it. And I got my medical records printed out, and I was like, there it is.
Right.
And it was so liberating because I was like, no amount of therapy could have stopped me from all those slaps and willy wops, because I used to whop
Willy
people and
wops.
just all sorts of terrible things. And I was like, I felt so guilty. I was like, why am I such a terrible person? But when I found out that it was Tourette's, and for sure, I was like, this isn't something that I could help. It wasn't something I could choose not to do. And I just felt this release, and I got to be able to diffuse situations because people were like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I'm like, I have Tourette's, I'm really sorry. And immediately people are nice. Like I was in the quiet train because there were no other seats on it once. And this lady came over to me and went, excuse me, is that your phone? And I was like, no, I have, it's a tic, I'm doing it, and I can't stop. Is it bothering you? I'm really sorry. And she went, I am so sorry. And she went from like Karen mode to like, "Ugh," and the whole train went silent, was just watching and smirking.
And do people know what Tourette's is, do you think, in general? Is it in public sort of consciousness now as a condition?
Nowadays, I'd like to think so, yeah.
Okay, so I twitch quite violently in my sleep, and on one time I was flying, I think, from the United Emirates to Malaysia, and I was sat in between two Arab sheikhs. This sounds like the beginning of a joke. And I twitched violently and went like that, and kind of whacked both of the Arab sheikhs at the same time. Realised what I'd done, and then I just pretended to still be asleep because I was so embarrassed. They didn't say anything. I'm sure they weren't chuffed, but I'm sure they weren't chuffed to be sat either side of me anyway. When I'm travelling on trains and things, if I really, really need to get off at the right stop, I might ask the ticket man to wake me up. Recently, I got sent into first class so that the conductor could come and wake me up at the end. People are usually very kind, not just people that are in customer service, but even the general public have been usually really kind and helpful. Like I've fallen asleep on buses and trains and in various parts of the world. In Australia, I had a weird blackout and I couldn't remember where I was, where I came from. It was very strange. It hasn't happened since, but I had this very weird blackout where it took me around 45 minutes to kind of come out of it, and I just didn't know where I needed to go, where I'd come from. It was quite scary. And actually, I don't think anyone helped me on that occasion. I don't remember if I asked anyone for help. When I was in France once, I was in this nightmare tube station. I can't remember which one it is. It's enormous and it has lots of different tunnels. When I'm walking around places like that, I can often drift into this sort of semi-sleep. I'm basically like asleep but awake at the same time. It's complicated. It's like someone's pulled blinds over your eyes. Yeah, I was just confused and had no idea where I needed to go or anything. And I was tired, frustrated, and I was having constant micro sleeps. So I couldn't figure out what on earth I was doing. And this nice lady spotted me and came over and helped me out. And things like that happen generally, which is nice. I have been robbed, but not because I was asleep. You don't want to come near me when I'm asleep because I will headbutt you or punch you. I wake up very suddenly and I'm wide awake again as soon as I wake up. So unless I've asked you to wake me up beforehand, if I'm falling asleep and somebody if I sense anything in front of my face, my instant reflex is to lash out. So, which is useful because obviously falling asleep on public transport could easily make me a target.
I'd say millions upon millions more people now know than ever. And I think that wasn't the case when I was young at all. I mean, even I had vaguely heard of Tourette syndrome as a child and decided I didn't have it because, like, yes, I have these random things that I say, but, like, my idea of Tourette syndrome didn't fit what I was experiencing. Everyone has a stereotype of Tourette syndrome. They all think it's swear words, sudden and non-complex, just you shout fuck every now and again. But, like, I would sit there and I'd have these long complex tics, or I'd have motions that I'd do over and over again and things like that. And I was like, nah, it's like Tourette's, but it's not. And so I think it's much more well known and much more well understood by the public now, which is fantastic because it's infinitely safer to leave my house. I've been kicked off buses and in places, I've traveled to places even now where people don't understand Tourette's very much, like America, and like lost thousands in plane tickets because of the chaos it's caused.
Oh wow! Even somewhere like America or an airline or something like that, they don't have an awareness of what it might be.
No.
Wow. What? So you've been kicked off the planes, or you just haven't been allowed to board, or?
Well, they don't kick you off mid-flight, but they do. They will deny you entry if you're being abusive or causing a scene. I do ask for special assistance, and there is a whole process for that. But their special assistance is reserved for people with disabilities that are very visible. So they'll walk up to it and go, you're this person here for special assistance, right? And I'll go, yep. And they'll go, I've got this wheelchair for you. Let's go. And I'm like, I don't need a.
Yeah, exactly. Although occasionally it's been useful for me because if I've been traveling a lot and I'm more tired, I am more prone to have cataplexy. So I don't want to be collapsing in an airport, and it has happened, but I've been when I was with somebody else. So just to be safe on on a couple of long haul flights, I chose to have assistance. But yeah, it's just a wheelchair. They don't really provide for people with complex or invisible illnesses, which is unfortunate.
Wheelchair, and they're like, well, I don't know anything about that. Good luck. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Because now I've got to go through all these queues without spanking anyone or yeeting someone's baby. And like, I don't know what to do. So like in these situations, it can be really, really challenging. And it causes chaos. I've got a terrible travel story for every time I leave the house.
Have you ever yeeted a baby?
Not yet, but like, there's still plenty of time.
Okay. Do you feel like Tourette's defines you? Or do you feel like it's part of you? You know, when you meet someone for the first time, do you feel that you should say, by the way, I have Tourette's? Or is that something that slipped into the background in more recent life? Because when I first started seeing your videos, it was very much like the Tourette's were always in the title of the videos I'd seen, whether it was other people posting them or whatever. Whereas now, that doesn't seem to be as big a thing. It seems to be more just a gaming thing.
Okay. Firstly, I'll say, no, I'm not my Tourette's at all. My Tourette's has nothing to do with my identity. It's just a condition I manage. That's like saying someone is their eczema. Like, I don't choose what I handle in life. I am what I choose about myself. So I didn't choose to have Tourette's. That's not me. How I handle my Tourette's is an aspect of my identity. But, like, what I'm facing is just not me. Like, you wouldn't say someone was their trauma. You wouldn't say someone was their hair color. The things we choose about ourselves are the things we are. And so, and when I first started making content, I found it so important to put with Tourette's in every title of everything, all the streams, all the YouTube videos, not because I was like, look at me, guys, I had Tourette's. It was more, if I don't explain why I'm swearing, I will get demonetized. If I don't explain this as a condition.
If I'm swearing, it's just because I'm British, so. But I'm not on Twitch, so it's all right. I can say fuck as much as I want. I don't have to worry about being demonetized anyway, because I'm not monetized, so.
People will rant and rave at me in the comments. If I'm engaging with someone on my stream and it looks like I'm sexually harassing them or swearing at them, people will get mad at me and hate me they have to understand this is involuntary. And if it's right there in the title, if you don't want to hear swearing, it's on you if you clicked on it anyway. Whereas like people would come in and they'd be like, what if children see this? You'll get, like, I was getting accused when I first arrived. They're like, you don't belong here. This is live streaming. Like, if you can't not swear and not breach the terms of service of Twitch and not break the rules, you shouldn't be here. Because the rules say you can't say the N-word. You can't say like racial slurs and things like this, which is fair and totally fine. But I can't help it. So it just exclude people with disabilities if you enforce it when people don't mean it and they're just, So in that situation, making people aware that I had Tourette syndrome was essential to my presence. It wasn't like a way to grab an audience. It wasn't a aspect of my identity. It was just a coping strategy for a hostile environment.
It's basically because I want to educate, and the thing is, inevitably, at some point, I don't know when, but at some point, I might be streaming and I might get tired and fall asleep. It might have even happened. I have a feeling that I might have, dozed off or had a micro sleep during one of my streams before, but haven't watched them all, so I don't know. So the reason I will talk about it is because so that people understand why I'm falling asleep. It's not just because I am hungover, stoned, or any of those things. Though I might be hungover or I might be drunk, but that's not the reason. So, and also I just feel that it's really important to educate. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, as the same as for Anita. So yes, that's it. That's all I have to say about
that. But as I become more well known, people already know that I have my condition. I mean, when I hung out with the Sidemen on YouTube, that video I was on had 38 million views. So just by that one video alone, there'll be like millions of people who now know that I am the Tourette's girl, which means that if I just put my own name in the content or my own face in the thumbnail, most people know what to expect now, so I can chill a bit because people already know what to expect. And that's what the transformation was. Because for me, I feel like a lot of people who regularly come to my streams ask me questions that have nothing to do with my condition.
I don't think I'm going to become narcolepsy girl. I mean, I don't mind. Because I'm usually quite well medicated, so I may fall asleep a little bit, but it's not going to be so regular and so often. I mean, I over-medicate. If I'm doing something, or if I'm socializing, or if I'm on a stream, I over-medicate to get through it. So it's less likely that you're going to see it, because it's embarrassing. I don't necessarily want to do it in front of the world. So I tend to if I'm going out socializing, I'll over-medicate to be there, I can't remember where I was going with that.
You can tell a newcomer because they're asking the same questions over and over again about my condition, but a lot of people stay for the other discussions, luckily, because, that's what I'm passionate about. And I'm much calmer and I tick less when I talk, so I just want to...
I sleep less when I talk. That's why I don't shut the fuck up sometimes.
Engage as myself, not just constantly be exhausted and have people fixate on my condition, because ticking is exhausting. So yeah, that's the overview of why that changed and how I feel about my condition.
I think like you've got an amazing skill of really being able to explain situations in a way that make it very accessible and easy to understand for people.
You might notice that I move around a lot. Like, I have ways of trying to stay awake. So if you notice, I shuffle around a lot, things like that. When I'm really, really struggling to stay awake, I do have some more brutal techniques that I'm not going to share with you right now. But yeah, you might notice that I'll start off in a video like sitting quite nicely and still, and then over time, like this has been quite lengthy, so I've started to shuffle around a bit because I'm getting more and more tired, and I don't feel like taking any more medication when I've already taken like 4 or 5 of those things and still tired. I don't know. I don't feel like... Yeah, I'm going to stop talking because, like, I'm just babbling.
People who haven't been in those situations before. So even in this chat, there's, you know, obviously there's a Tourette's thing, but being a female streamer, how Twitch works, like the interactions with different people, it's really fascinating to listen to you. And I just wanted to say, you know, best of luck with the future and thanks so much for coming back. And
Fuck off.
thanks, Anita.